Hi, how you doing? George Zeeks, Automotive Training Institute. Listen, a lot of you out there are having a problem and you're missing the boat. So let me show you what the boat looks like and then show you how to put the boat in the water, okay? Let's talk about exit appointments. When you go to the dentist and you talk to the dentist, what's the dentist do? They set you an appointment for your next visit. And then who calls you? Not the dentist, but somebody in the office. They call you up to remind you that, hey, next week or 3 days from now, you have an appointment with the dentist for a follow-up visit for your next cleaning or whatever, okay? We need to be doing the same thing in automotive, okay? We need to make sure that we're capturing these people, getting them in 3 to 4, sometimes 5 times a year. It's going to increase your car count. It's going to keep your bays full, and it gives you that opportunity to check the car out. So here's the problem. People have a problem doing this because they have a problem asking and saying, hey, Mr. Shablotnick, I went ahead and put you down for your next appointment. It's in 3 months. It'll be on May 19th, whatever. Okay, some people have a problem with that, either asking or some customers have a problem receiving that. Either way, some people are going to be able to do that, some people aren't. Let me give you an alternative to that too. How about if I did this? Ms. Shablotnick, I went ahead and put you down as a friendly reminder call for 3 months from now to see if you put 3,000 miles on your car to see if you're ready for your next visit. No big deal. Just be a friendly reminder call to see if you're ready for your next visit. I would love if somebody would do that with my wife's car. When you keep it friendly, you keep it low key, then you're setting them up so that at 90 days you make that reminder call. And when you make that reminder call, they know that it's coming. They know it's just a friendly reminder. If they make an appointment on that reminder call, that's great. If you don't, you're still being top of mind. And then when they need an oil change in a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, they'll come back into you. If you're not doing these follow-up calls, you're missing the boat. You need to do the follow-up calls. That will keep your car count up. It'll eliminate the peaks and valleys of car count. It'll help you out quite a bit.
Hello, everyone. This is Matt Winslow. And on the phone today, I have
George Zeeks.
And Mike Haley.
And today, what's our topic today, fellas? What are we going to talk about?
Exit appointments. How to grow your car count.
So if I don't need any more cars, I can just tune out right now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I know that we've got a lot of people on the phone right now, and none of you need cars, and none of you want to have your people coming back in more often. So you could just hang up and go put out a fire or something. How about that?
Well, tell you what. How about you teach us today how to do exit appointments, get the good kind of customers who want to come back in, and avoid all the bottom feeders. Can you do that for us?
Sure, be happy to. I think the first step in this is educating your customer. Your customers, the average customer I'm talking about, has very limited knowledge about their vehicle. It's the second most expensive thing they own, but they really don't know the inner workings of a vehicle. And what I mean by what they don't know that maintenance and servicing of a vehicle is an ongoing event. They know to get an oil change. But after that, they really kind of wait for something to happen. They wait for the check engine light, or they wait for a funny noise, or they wait for someone to say something to them on servicing the vehicle. So the first part and the most important part is educating your customer that how vehicles are built today and how they're treated and the maintenance of those vehicles. And then at that point, you can go ahead and parlay into how would you like to set up your next service? So educating them on how you treat a car, also explaining to them what was done today, and then what's coming up next. What's the next event that I need to be prepared for? What is that event? How long from now is that event? And about how much time will that event take me? That's really where you want to be with your customers. George?
A lot of you guys out there, and we hear it every day when we're on the phone, I want more cars, I want more cars, I want more cars. Well, if you run that frequency report, by the way, that's free, and if you have any questions on that, send me an email or send an email to Mike. We'll be more than happy to get you a link to that. But one of the things you want to look at that is, what's my turn rate? How often are my customers coming back in? Over and over again, what we see is people, they come in once, and maybe they had an okay experience, but you didn't pursue them. You didn't set the appointment for their next visit. You didn't set the expectation that they're going to come back to you for the next visit. You don't make the reminder call to get them back in, and they kind of drift away. Because the experience was good, maybe. Maybe it was okay, maybe it was good, but just life happens and you lost them. They slipped off the hook. They're gone.
Let's face it, George, no news is good news, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's how most of us live.
So one of the things that happens here, between looking at the one-time visits, the one-time visit percentage and, how high that is and what can we do to get that lower, which is exit appointments, and looking at how often your average customer comes into your shop, we see all the time that if you just picked up an extra half a visit over your customer base that came in over the last 12 months, we're talking a pretty substantial amount of money. I mean, we don't have an example to show you or the math to show you, but this is all about getting your customers to come in, one, a second time, and then to get them to come in more, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You want them to know that this is a dance that doesn't end. The dance continues. The song that never ends. You also need to get your team involved in this. The team is very critical in letting you know when the next services need to be performed as well. The technicians can say, well, we performed the brake service today, but I looked up in the corner of the windshield and I see that the next oil service is due on this date at this many miles. You can give that information very quickly and easily to the service writer, and the service writer can then schedule the next service off of valid information that he has. Very easy to do, but we need everybody pulling from the same side of the rope and making sure that we all understand when is the next service, when is that to be, and communicate that to the customer. You really have to spend as much time with that as you do treating the original concern that the customer came in with. It's that important.
One of the big problems, too, is I'll just use my wife example, and I love my wife to death. She drives a Toyota. It's a RAV4. Does not normally take synthetic oil. I put synthetic oil in it because guess what? I don't know when I'm going to get that car back from her. She does not do the oil changes. She makes me do them, and she waits for the light to come on. And once the light has been on long enough to where it really has started to annoy her, at that point, I get the car. So it's usually 5,000 to 6,000 miles. So with the synthetic oil, I'm covered. But what if I wasn't doing that? And what about the shops that are running into that day after day after day? Well, how many opportunities are we missing? It should be 3,000 miles. I still firmly believe that with regular oil. So if we weren't using synthetic and she's going 6,000, we just missed a whole visit.
So all of us want to know out there in TV land, George?
Yep.
The light she waits for, is that the maintenance reminder light or is that the you're out of oil light?
It's the pull the car over right now because I'm on fire light. She used to call it the new car light, and I had to get that squared away because that's not going to work. Yeah, she'll sit there with the maintenance reminder light on forever. She doesn't even worry about it.
Okay, sorry. Just ask.
No, I get the point. Trust me. Now, the thing is here, you need to look at this. So let's get back around to exit appointments. What's the point behind this? Okay, well, getting your customers in more often and making sure you get that first-time visitor back in a second time. That's one of the big points. For your writers that are up on the staff, or for those of you that are up on the staff, but let's look at it from a writer's point of view. Now here you're going to ask them to do another thing, yet another thing, something else they have to do at the exit. It's got to be you're going to hear all kinds. It's got to be a pain in the butt. Oh, geez, people don't want to do that. You're going to hear every excuse in the book. Explain it to them from a point. Why do they care? What's in it for them? Well, when I was running shops, I don't know about you, Mike, but if I could get the customer back in a second time or a third time or a fourth time, every time they came back in and they got more and more used to me, they became easier and easier to talk to about getting their maintenance done, about getting the extra stuff done. They took better care of the car because you build up that trust.
Exactly right, George. They go from being a customer to being a friend. And then when they're a friend to a fan, they'll do anything you ask. And you all have them. Those are the ones that toss you the key and say, go ahead and do whatever it takes. That's what you want to build with your service advisors. And the win for them, if you have them on the right comp plan, more cars, more sales, also easier selling for them as well. It's going to be very easy to sell to friends and fans rather than selling to customers.
And which would you rather talk to? When people already know you and they already feel comfortable with you, the whole experience for both sides of the counter is just that much better. So this is something that you need to talk to them. Don't dictate to them. You have to talk to them and show them what's in it for them, why this is a good idea, how they're going to benefit, and then we can get into the exit appointments.
Let me jump in here. Here's a very important reason why you want to get focused on exit appointments. Basically, we're asking you guys to spend some time when the customer's picking up the car for their next appointment, right, guys?
Absolutely.
Here's the benefit to you, okay? Typically, people pick up cars over a long period of time. They'll maybe get up at 4, 4:30, 5, 5:30, 6 o'clock. But, most people drop off their car between like 7:45 and 8 in the morning. So I'm thinking that if we take the time at the exit appointment to really build that relationship and let them know about the next visit and so forth, because they trust me and because they're now a friend and a client, next time they come in at 8 o'clock in the morning, I don't have to go through all that song and dance when I have 50 other people seeing me. They just throw me their keys, and all they have to do is focus on the new folks. Isn't that kind of what you're telling me?
Absolutely, that's it.
So I either spend the time when I have the time at the exit appointment, or I just provide lousy customer service and be in frantic mode reactively the next time people come in.
Absolutely, and that also goes into the steps of a sale too. You want to go ahead and quote the price correctly and then call them when the work is done, giving them the price yet again, so that when they come in to pick up the vehicle, you're not talking price, you're not talking about what was done. You're still going to mention those things, but you don't have to dwell on that and use all that time up because, again, remember, the clock's ticking. When the customer is picking up the car, they're only going to give you so many minutes of their time before their attention shuts down on you. So you got to make sure that the window you have is used for scheduling the next service, informing the customer of what's coming up next. So yeah, it's very important, and you got a small window.
So let's talk about there's two fairly distinct approaches to this. The first approach is I'm going to set that customer up with an exact day and an exact time for their next appointment. Just like your dentist does, they or your doctor sometimes for follow-up visits, whatever. I had a minor surgery, some skin cancer, and they cut it out, and the doctor said, "Well, I'm going to see you in," and it was either 7 or 10 days, I can't remember because I really wasn't paying attention. And I asked why, and she said because we need to take the stitches out. So they're setting an appointment a day at a time, which I refused because I just took the stitches out myself because I'm not going to pay $300 to have them do that. That's just nuts. But getting aside the point, they set an exact day and exact time. And a lot of times your dentist will do that. And a lot of you could do that. And if it works in your market and you've got the approach down, that's a great way to do it. The day and the time, are they written in stone? Well, I wouldn't expect that to happen because you're going to have to call them to remind them either way, either approach you use, to say, hey, we've got you scheduled for Tuesday at 10:45 to get your oil changed. Is that time still good for you? Have you put 3,000 miles on the car? Are you ready for your next visit? However you want to pitch this, but we've got if talk to your coach, we've got a lot of different scripts that you can use to start with. By the way, with your service advisor, your writer, whoever you've got calling. Maybe it's you, and that way you can move right into that.
And then the other way is starting off a little bit slower. And again, when you first talk to your customers about setting the next appointment, and as long as you've been in business, as long as you've been dealing with them, you've never done this before, you're gonna throw them for a little bit of a loop. They're gonna go, what this scheduling ahead of time? What are you talking about? This is strange. I don't schedule ahead for service on my vehicle. I wait for it to make a noise, or I wait for it to break, or I wait for myself to remind myself that I need an oil change. Then I come to you. So you're going to explain, well, there's a much better and easier way to do this. I am your car care professional. I do know the next time the car is going to need service. I like to talk in general terms. Let's say that today I did an oil service on George's car, and I'm going to thank George for that service, and I'm going to tell him how we did the courtesy check, and if there's anything else we need to be keeping an eye on, and that knowing his driving habits, I have the customer history. I know today's date and the mileage on the car, and I know the last time and the date that the car was here, and I know that he's going to need service sometime around the middle of October. So I'm going to say, George, it was great to see you today. if nothing else occurs with the car, it looks like your next service is going to be due sometime around the middle of October. I'm not going to say October 15th at 10:45. I'm going to say about the middle of October. If it was October 3rd, I would say the beginning of October. And if it was October 30th, I would say sometimes towards the end of October. Don't worry about that, though, George. I'm going to get a hold of you, and we'll go ahead and confirm that, and we'll make those arrangements. So with that being said, I'm going to tell you to enjoy your summer. And if you need anything, don't hesitate to give us a call. So what I've told them is, you're fine. Enjoy your summer, but in the middle of October, expect some communication from me. And when I do communicate to you, it's going to be time to do. It's going to be a time to do a service. So I ease them into it. Then I'm going to see him in October, and then in October, when I say that he's due in January, I might say, looks like it's the second week of January, George. And so now I'm giving it a little more specific. And then in January, when it's due in April, then at that point, on my third setting of the appointment for him, now I might be saying, hey, George, these Tuesdays at 10:45, are they working for you?
Yeah.
And obviously they are, because he's here. I'm going to say, you know what? Let's just go ahead and book it for April 14th at 10:45. I'll still give you the reminder. You call me if there's any problems. But with that being said, I'm going to tell you, enjoy the beginning of spring.
That's a great way to ease people into it, Mike. I love that approach. One of the other things that a lot of times I'll tell people to say is, especially if you tell by their body language or they're getting a little bit weird, and you let them know, hey, look, I'm going to give you in 90 days. I'm going to give you a friendly reminder call to see if you're ready for next service, see if you've put 3,000 miles on the car. No big deal. Just a friendly reminder call to make sure that you're okay. That works out pretty good. One of my clients came up with the idea of saying, okay, for instance, I had my oil changed on my wife's car just the other day. Okay, so the next time it's due, it had its summer service. The next time it's due will be its
fall service.
And that really works out really well, because people don't look at it as far as a 3,000 miles. Well, it's 3 months. Most of the people on the phone have 4 seasons a year or something fairly close to it. Out in California, it goes from nice to really nice to nice, I guess. I don't know. Whatever.
I got to weigh in on that because I'm from California.
Okay.
We have 4 seasons just like everywhere else. We have mud, fire, wind, and hurricanes.
I love it. But that might be something that your writer, or you may feel more comfortable with saying, hey, you'll be due, your next oil change will be due in the next season, which is the fall, and we'll be giving you a friendly reminder.
You want to put the customer at ease to let them know that, hey, you're the car professional. You have software. You have ways of going ahead and predicting the day and the time of the next service, and you will track that for them. You understand that they are busy. They have a lot of things going on in their lives, and car maintenance does not need to be top of mind for them all the time. We will do that for them.
Now, the other thing, when we dropped my wife's car off for oil change, I knew going in that I need a transmission flush, and was going to need a front and rear diff. I knew it. I knew it was coming. They prepped me ahead of time. I knew it. And sure as shooting. So I dropped the car off because I work a lot of hours, dropped it off on Sunday. I get a text. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say a text from my service provider? Okay. And so Randy over at Walsey texts me and he says, hey, give me a call if you want. We talked about the transmission flush last time and the front and rear disc last time. Give me a call so we could talk about it. And all I did, because Randy did a very good job of prepping me at the last visit, all I had to do, because I was already on the phone with you guys, a client, all I had to do was text back, do it. Boy, I don't even care what the price is. He told me what the price was before. I don't even remember, but I know I need to do it because I got to take care of the car because I don't want to buy another one. I sure don't want to buy a transmission. So I just typed in the words, do it. I'm just curious, when we get this over with and we start taking questions, how many of you would just like to get a text message that just says, do it? How easy would that make your service writer or your manager's life? And that's what prepping people for the next appointment, which is what Mike was talking about, setting that next appointment. That's what that's all about.
Also, besides prepping them for the next service, this is also great. Let's face it, we are in still difficult economic times. Things are tough, and people are picking and choosing where to spend their dollars. Setting the next service also allows them the opportunity to save for the next service, and you then can remind them of when it's time for that next service. Sometimes when you haven't seen a customer for a while, we see by your car counts you haven't seen customers for a long time, and they're coming in because finally the car is in need of service, and you give them a pretty good list, and they're like, oh my gosh, George, I just can't do all that today. That's where then you break it up into piles, just like we teach you, and you can set the next appointment for the next pile that you're going to be working on. Works very well. The customers really appreciate you taking the time to work with them and prioritizing it for them and scheduling it for them. They really do appreciate that.
Now, what Randy would have done had I walked in the door when I said I need an oil change, he would have checked my history and he would have pre-sold at the counter at the write-up, the front and rear diff, he would have, and the transmission flush, because I know him. That's what he would have done. Because I dropped it off, he didn't do that. But these are very key things that you need to get your people on, making the next appointment, setting the expectations for the next appointment. Plus, a lot of times, I'll ask a question. It's rhetorical because you can't answer. They can't answer, can they?
I don't think so.
They can't answer. Okay. So here's the question. When you went out with your spouse, did you ask for a second date? Or did you just give them a kiss, goodnight, a little peck, a handshake, whatever, and just say, see ya? Or did you ask for the second date? I'm willing to bet you probably asked for that second date. This is the same exact thing. Just ask for the second date.
Same exact thing, George?
Sorta.
I agree. I would also say, too, to help you, you obviously want to do some role playing with your service writers on this, because this is a little strange. It's kind of like folding your hands and moving one finger up. It feels a little weird at first. So please do some role playing with your service advisors so they get comfortable with it. I would also tell you and advise you to get some tools that can help the service writer with this. When they can pull out that maintenance package and circle the next one that's due and staple that to the invoice. Again, when it's on print, sometimes it's a little more impactful. Rather than just words coming out of your mouth because they're in a hurry and they're trying to get out of there, if you can circle the next maintenance package and then staple it and say, here's what we're talking about next time here in October, when you get a chance, just take a look at it. Again, now they've got something to refer back to, and it's not something that will be easily forgotten because now they have a handheld material piece to look at.
Great point, Mike. The key to this is preparing your people for success. That's your job as the owner. Prepare your people for success. Give them a script. Review the script with them ahead of time. Alter the script so it sounds natural coming from them, comfortable coming from them. Prepare them with the maintenance package so they can prepare the customer for the next visit. Role play with them as you go through it. That way you're setting everybody up to win. Everybody's going to be happy. It's not going to seem awkward. The customer's not going to act weird. Then the service writer goes, well, I'm not going to do that again because they obviously didn't like it. No, just practice ahead of time.
Another thing this does too, guys, is once you start getting comfortable with we're going to be contacting you, now the next question comes out is how would you like to be contacted? How would everyone out there love to know where to spend their marketing dollars and their advertising dollars? If you get that information of, I like email, I like postcards, I like phone calls, now you know where to spend your dollars and where to spend your energies. So it's a great opportunity for you to know where to spend your time and your energies for marketing.
Plus, when you go through, we hear a lot, owners say, maybe you've got a service writer, or maybe it's a new service writer, or maybe you don't have one yet, and you're still growing into that. And the owner, they say, I can't make the call, Mike, because
I don't have time.
I don't have time. You know what? Okay, let's break this down. A 3-day thank you call takes about 10 seconds. The reminder call takes about a minute. So I'm just curious, if you did 50 cars in a 5-day work week, and you had to make that 1-minute phone call on all 50 of those cars, you're talking about 10 minutes a day. Now, you're really going to tell me that you can't find 10 minutes in what you guys typically work, which is a 10-hour day, to make these phone calls to guarantee the success of your business?
Well, and I would tell you, George, too, most people are probably going to appreciate an email, and that's a click of a button. And there's software out there now today that you just review it, confirm it, and send it. So it's even less than that.
So, yeah, now we're down to 7 minutes or 6 minutes or 5 minutes. And let's suppose, okay, fine, you really, 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 really don't have time to make the phone call. You know what? It's still no excuse. You're telling me you can't find, and I'm not trying to be sexist here, but females just have better phone voices. They just do. So a high school girl, a college girl looking for some part-time cash, making these phone calls. You tell me you can't find one of those? Put a note on the counter. Ask your customers. Employ one of your customers' kids. It would be absolutely huge. Somebody has to make these calls. 3-day thank you call, the 90-day reminder call, the where you been call. Sending postcards is great, and people get very good responses. Sending emails, that's great. Sending texts, that's great. But I still believe that you still have to. The phone call is never going to disappear, ever.
Let's take some questions while we're at it. We have Daryl Beach, and Daryl, you're unmuted if you want to talk. You out there, buddy?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Go ahead with your first question, Daryl.
First question is going back to, on the exit, handing the customer some form of literature to help them understand why they need the next maintenance. Do the coaches have access to good sources for industry literature?
Yeah, we do. A lot of the software comes with it. Or Mitchell has it. All Data has it. Making your own maintenance programs. Identifix. There's a lot of resources to pull it from. Me personally, Daryl, this is me personally, I like having my own maintenance packages built, ready to go, and then I can circle the one that the customers are due for, and then I just keep them in that pattern so that I'm training them and I'm teaching them the services that I'm going to be performing, the easy, intermediate, minor, major services. I believe in those 4 services, and then I just go ahead and keep repeating those 4 services. I get them trained that way.
I mean, for some people, they look at it, you have a 3K, then you have a 6K. Well, now we're at 9,000 miles, so you repeat the 3K. Now you're at 12,000 miles, so you repeat the 6K. Now you're at 15,000 miles, so you do a 15K. That's the K package. Having either something in-house or, with all the listings, talk to your coach, work out what you want to do, whether you want to have something that's branded personally to you, which I think is an awesome idea, or you're using somebody else's guideline. Either way, get started with something.
Whatever your shop is comfortable with is the right way.
Understand.
That help?
That helped. Now on to my second question. On the scheduling aspects, has anybody there had any experience with some of the online scheduling systems? I noticed that Mitchell has now got one where customers can log into the website and basically look at your calendar to place themselves on the calendar.
Yeah, Daryl, there's a lot of them out there. Mitchell, MechanicsNet, Driver's Side, Demand Force. You can go into just about all of them now and schedule an appointment. So yes, I would say it's just becoming in vogue. So in probably the last year and a half, it's just starting to, become to be used. But there's still a lot of training and educating of the customers to let them know that they can do that. So I would say it's more likely right now that the shops are writing down the date, they're logging the date, then they're reaching out to the customer to set the appointment. That's the way it is today.
One of the things to keep in mind, I don't really know off the top of my head, I'm sure there's got to be 1 or 2, of any systems that is actually going to log that appointment into your point of sale system. So you're going to get an email, so you're going to have to constantly be checking your email, and then you're either going to have to email back that, hey, this time is good or this time is not good, here's an alternative time, or pick up the phone if the time's not good and call them. if it's the way the customer wants to be contacted and they want to do business by email or by text, we want to be able to respond to that. But we have to make sure that we're paying attention to the phone for the text or for the email account for the email, and then make sure that that gets transferred into our point of sale scheduler so that we don't end up having 3 different cars at the same time.
Certainly understand. Looks like it could probably add an extra layer of time consumption that the service manager or writer doesn't really need. It'd be easier just to schedule it manually, face-to-face with the customer if possible.
I think you're probably right for now until software catches up to that. And I also think that's probably the right way to do it, because you want to dictate the production of your shop, and also think about the customer's point of view. They are not going to remember events that are 4 or 5 months down the road. Think about it with your dental cleaning. I don't know my next date. I don't care to know my next date because I know I'm going to get an email reminder saying, hey, it's time. Can you confirm this day and time is going to work? And I always have the same day and time. So as a consumer, I don't worry about that. I let the professionals do that for me.
And email still is a very valuable tool. You just have to be aware that you just have to keep an eye on it. And it could go faster than a phone call would. And it may be the preferred method of the customer. So I wouldn't necessarily write that off. You just have to be aware that, it's I don't think it's an extra time, but it may be a different step that we're taking right now.
I would agree.
We have started on the initial contact with the customer when we're taking their information, actually asking their preferences. Do they prefer to get text messages? Do they prefer to get emails? We find a lot of the higher paid professionals, like attorneys and doctors, really prefer text messaging.
They sure do.
They can read it at their leisure.
Yep, absolutely. And they can multitask, and that's the world we live in right now.
Yeah, that's why if Randy at Walls were to call me, he's not going to get a call back. It's just not going to happen. I'm too busy. So if you text me, I will see it. I can see it while I'm on the call. I can either call him back if I absolutely have to, or I could just type those 2 words, the favorite words. I can't remember what the words were. What are the words, Mike?
Do it.
Yeah, do it.
Do it now.
I do appreciate it, gentlemen.
Well, thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Good questions.
Okay, we have a question from Karen Donald. Here's what she said. I believe the service advisor should make the 1-month follow-up calls. The owner should make the 3-day thank you, and anyone can make the appointment reminder phone call. What's your comments on that?
Again, I think it's up to your shop on the way you lay that out. Karen, that sounds like that would work for me. I wouldn't have an issue with that. I don't care that the owner is not setting the appointment for me. I love it that the owner is saying thank you to me for the business. But no, I think that would be a perfect setup. And I think each individual shop has a different personality and a different way of doing things. It's just as long as we get the results. And the results are, can I get that car to come back into my shop 3 times a year or at the right mileage intervals, and it's a scheduled event. It's not a reactive event of, oh, it's time to go and I'm over. Shoot, let me make the call to the shop. Let me see when I can get in there. Let me see when they can handle it. We want it so that it's a scheduled event. Everyone's on the same page of knowing when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen. As long as we get there, however you want to do it in your shop is fine.
Hey, Karen, I really like what you got there. And let me stress something for everybody else out there. If you have a new manager or you have a new writer or someone new that's dealing with the public, I had a shop. We put a new manager in, and the average repair order went up by about $100 per car. And no one was doing the 3-day the thank you call. And I talked to the owner and I was like, listen, this is a pretty substantial increase in ARO. Maybe we need to make sure that our customers are happy, that they're not unhappy. And he said, I'll have the manager call. And I was like, no, I don't think we're going to have to do that. I think you need to make that phone call. And what ended up happening was, well, the manager was doing a good job in selling, but he really wasn't. He was a home run hitter. He believed in $1,000 tickets. And if you didn't buy a $1,000 ticket, he made you feel bad. And we found out really quickly that this just wasn't going to make it. So we had a conversation with the manager, You told him to calm down. You tried to relax him a little bit, but that's just the way he was built. And the phone calls kept showing up that we were having a problem. That 3-day phone call, if you've got a new person, needs to be done by the owner until you feel very comfortable with them. I do agree with that 100%. Good job, Karen.
Good point.
Some people like to schedule on computer, which I think is fine. I've heard other people, they prefer to use an appointment book. I was talking to one client, they like a hybrid. Check this out. They like to use the appointment book in front of the customer, just write it very quickly. It allows them to flip through it quickly. And then they put the appointment in the computer later because that way they're maintaining that connection with the customer as opposed to not looking at the customer, looking at the computer screen, getting tied up in the computer screen. And they also said they like using the hybrid method where they're actually using the book because that also motivates the service advisor to remember to do the exit appointment because sometimes it's easy to forget to put it in the computer, but the owner can walk right by the appointment book, flip through it, and go, where's all my appointments? What do y'all think?
I think it's a great idea. I think it's quick, it's easy, and it's also a great, like you said, Matt, a great check and balance. The owner could flip the page open and say, okay, we did 20 invoices today, and here are 20 appointments. So fantastic. No problem with doing that whatsoever. And I think you do need to pay attention to the customer while they're there. And you can always enter that information in later for your use. It doesn't need to be there for the customer's use at that time.
Now, one of the things you have to keep in mind, though, as you're going through, whether it's a paper book or an electronic book, you're almost going to have to keep 2 different sets of records for appointments. Let me tell you why, okay? Maybe I keep a paper book for the people that I need to call back. Okay, maybe when I enter that into my computer, I enter that in at 5 o'clock at night or 5 o'clock in the morning. And so I've got the name, the car, the phone number, and what time the appointment was. But I really don't want to clog my real life appointment schedule that I'm living with day by day with potential people coming in. Because I want to make sure that I'm calling a week ahead of time. So I'm actually putting it maybe, if I'm doing it electronically, I would do it at 5 in the morning, and I'd list all the people during the times I'm not open, so I could call them and set a hard appointment, and then it goes into an actual time slot for the following week. I don't want to take up a time slot with somebody who may or may not show up, but I do want to have a reminder, whether it's on paper or on electronic, for the call, what time they wanted if you're going to do a time call, or whether it's just a general reminder for that day or that week. And that way I keep my true appointment schedule pure and pristine, and they only get entered into that after I've either got an email or a text back or a call back that, yes, that is the time that I want.
Let me throw something out to the group. Some of you guys may be using Demand Force. Anybody here using Demand Force and the scheduling system out there with great success? Hey, while we're at it, let's talk about something else. Exit appointments are great. If I liked the service and I liked the way you treated me, maybe we could spend a couple minutes on talking about how to make the visit that I'm currently on wonderful, so I'd want to do an exit appointment. What do you think?
Well, let's mention something really quick because I like where you're going here, Matt. If you have a person who says that they don't want the phone call, maybe you're not setting in. Let's say you're not setting an exact day and time. You're letting them know, hey, your next service will be in the fall. I'll be giving you a call, around the beginning of October, just a friendly reminder to let you know that you might be due for another service to check to see if you have the mileage. Don't call me. I would kind of take that as a warning sign that maybe I didn't do a very good job on this service. Maybe there's something they're not happy with. That's a huge clue. I did have a client who said that hardly anybody wanted that extra appointment. And after we went through and talked about it, well, it turned out it was an hour and 15 minutes to get an oil change done. Those people weren't coming back for anything, and they were waiting customers. So that could be a clue as the customer satisfaction right off the bat.
Absolutely. So it's a great red flag to say, is my customer service where it needs to be? Am I wowing the customer? And then also maybe, am I still lacking in the educating of the customer too? Does the customer not understand what we're trying to accomplish here? Because Once you get the customer to understand the process and what the win is for them, that they don't have to remember the exact day and the exact mileage and the exact service, that you're going to track all that for them, why would anyone turn that down and say, no, 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 I want to remember the date myself, I want to remember the service myself, and I want to remember the time to come in myself. I want to manage all that myself. I don't want anyone managing that for me. If you think about it, who would in their right mind say that, George?
Somebody who doesn't want to come back.
There's a small percentage, don't get me wrong, there is a small percentage. There's some old school guys out there that are still like that. But yeah, so if they shoot you down and say, no, 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 absolutely don't do that, you absolutely have to go back to your customer service and ask those open-ended questions to see if you can get that feedback. Or if that's not the issue, then go back and say, well, did I really do a good job educating this customer so that they understand what we're trying to accomplish and the win for them in this program?
It can be very, very interesting if you get one or two. Okay, fine, one or two, I get it. One or two a week, sure, that could happen. I understand that totally. If half my customers are telling me don't call me back, maybe there's a problem in the presentation, maybe there's a problem in the customer service altogether, and I would put a little star next to them or some little indicator. So what I'm doing, the 3-day thank you call, if I happen to talk to them versus a machine, let's see what they say. Because if they're really gruff, I mean, they're probably not going to engage you in a conversation. But if there's a problem, they may just bring it up and let you know something that you didn't know. But if they said, yeah, whatever, goodbye, click, and they hung up on you, maybe it's the person. But if you get a couple of those, maybe that's a big red flag.
It's a great point, George. And what percentage of the world are doves?
40%.
So right off, 40% of your customers are going to let you say your speech and not give you any pushback anyway, just because they're doves and they don't want to cause conflict. So they're going to say, yep, that's fine, no problem. So if you're getting anything different than that, you probably really need to look at your processes.
How's that do for you, Matt?
I like that. Hey, George, you remember that dude you were talking to in the south part of the United States where he was telling us that all the marketing stuff doesn't work? And when we pulled his recency report, didn't you say like 70+% of all the people that ever did business with him never came back ever again?
73. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, by the way, if you haven't gotten that frequency report, if you're not paying attention to that on a monthly basis, you gotta know how many people are coming in one time and never coming back, because this is a great opportunity that we're talking about today to get them back in.
Guys, also look in the corner of the windshield there where the sticker is for the next oil service and see if it's not yours. If it's not yours, you need to be addressing that too.
A lot of you out there, you got customers that love you. Okay, I get it. I'm not trying to insult you. But what happens, they come to you when you have a problem. They're not coming to you for every service, every oil change, every single thing that's going on. They'll come to you if the light comes on, the car runs bad, or the brakes start grinding. That's when they come to you. But if you're not getting them for all the maintenance services, somebody else is. Guaranteed.
Just wanted to comment that, one of the things you talk about in the marketing class, you and Mike talk about, is effective marketing is building relationships with consumers. And you want to take them from customers, which are first timers, where you got to spend a lot of time stroking them and creating trust and confidence, to a client that those are the keys. And in reality, your exit appointment, investing the time in the exit appointment, is really what creates that long-term relationship, which ultimately makes you a lot more money.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hey, Karen Donald gave me an answer to my question. She wrote, I use Demandforce, but could count on one hand how many people make an appointment online. Also, I don't think you can put a person's appointment in Demandforce yourself. And James McLean wrote, if I currently use a mailed card follow-up system, should I just use that data for my follow-up card since I mail them to the customer anyway? We keep very detailed reminder info in our system and have a 20-year history of mailing reminder cards. However, I like the idea of the winter-summer reminder call that your car is due for service, and I think it may help me sell maintenance.
Okay, what was it? What was the caller's name, Matt?
That was James McLean.
Okay, James, I'm talking to you directly. Forget everybody else. It's just you and me. We're just talking, just you and me. So I'm just curious. And I need you to type in the answer to Matt so Matt can give the answer, okay? So when it's your wife's birthday, Do you give her a birthday card, and in the birthday card, do you write I love you, or does the birthday card say I love you?
Probably both.
So he says, I love you is what he writes back. He also wrote back, not George.
I'm crushed here. Okay, so you handwrite on the card, I love you. I'm just curious. You already said you loved her because you wrote it on the card. You don't need to say it now, right? Or do you?
Good point, George. Good point. Speaking of cards, too, I want to give credit to a gentleman by the name of James Rogers, who operates Rogers Northside Garage in Idaho, Boise, Idaho. What he's trying, it's still yet to be determined if it's going to be successful or not. He has several reminder cards to choose from. One is a beautiful mountain scene. One is a beautiful looking red Corvette. One is a beautiful puppy dogs. And what it is the customer gets to pick out the reminder card they would like to receive.
I like that.
They fill out the reminder card in their handwriting, their name, their address.
Oh my God, that's so good.
All James has to do is put the stamp on it and the date of when it goes out. And so when they see this card again in the mailbox, they go, I remember seeing this card. Where did I see this card? They flip it over. There's Rogers Northside Garage reminding them of their next service.
And they wrote it.
And they wrote it in their handwriting. I think it's a great idea. I think James is really onto something. And he stole it from another industry. It wasn't the automotive industry, but he stole it from somewhere. I think it's a fantastic idea, and we can't wait to measure the results of how this works.
So, one, that's a great idea. Two, sending cards it's incredibly important because you just don't know. The card, they'll see it, it'll spur something, but a card and a call, that's saying, I love you.
By the way, James wrote back, you said, do you send the card to your wife and tell her, or do you actually say I love you as well? He wrote back, you'd better say it, and I get the message.
Way to go, James.
Thanks, James.
He has another question, though. He says, what do you think about the reminder card as a timing device for the call?
In other words, the card goes out, and if there's no response to the card, then a call goes out 1 week after or something to that effect? Is that what his question is?
Well, I would think the card would go out. The card's on a time schedule, too. Mm-hmm. So the card's got to start to fly. If you figure 3 to 5 days flight time, you want to hit them right around that 90th day. So let's say the card flies at 85, 80 on the 85th day. So, and I'm calling on the 90th day, so they're both hitting kind of bing bang at the same time, or even if they're hitting within a couple of days of each other, I think that really has the best effect. So you want to try to time the impact of the card and the call as close as possible as you can.
Well, I was thinking that might make sense because, if I get the card or if you send the card and they get the card and then you follow up shortly after with text messaging or phone or email, hey, just want to verify you got the card and you're still good for the appointment. That kind of gives you a reason to call, doesn't it?
Sure.
And the thing is, if you were doing more of a general thing, like we've covered, oh yeah, I got your card. Thanks for calling. When is open? Oh, I can make you an appointment right now while I'm on the phone. Or you send them an email, hey, just a reminder, and they reply, what time is open? I got your card. I think it's a great opportunity.
Sure.
Here's a specific question. I think a lot of people have this question, okay? The cards print and then we mail them. Should we use that rather than trying to set up a time at the checkout of the vehicle? In other words, should they just do it reactively, wait for the card to go out and then call them, or do you think they should actually take the time at the checkout to actually try and get them to commit?
I tell you what, the more you can dial them in, and Mike went through a gradual dialing in process, if they're expecting a day and a time and they know that there's going to be a day and time, but they know that you're going to be in contact with them about that day and time, you still need to do both. If it's a matter of a general reminder, I think you still have to do both. It's just a matter of timing.
Matt, do you want to book 3 months out today, or do you want to try to work at it a week or try to work at it 2 months from now? So if I can book it today, I absolutely want to book it today because now it's done. It's set. Except for extenuating circumstances coming up, I have already booked productivity work in my shop for 3 months from now. If I say I'll get a hold of you and we'll work something out, that's more labor-intensive work that I have to do. So I would think the answer is always going to be, if I can book it at the exit, I want to book it at the exit. But you got to build up to it. You can't just you can't go from 0 to 100.
So let me just throw out another thought. One of the reasons I kind of like you trying to make the appointment right as they're leaving is because you want to be different than everybody else. Everybody else in this industry basically just has you pay the bill, kicks you out the door, and then they send you a card, which is very impersonal. By taking the time to build that exit point, you're taking the time to re-cement the relationship, tell them you love them. You take more time to deliver the car, which makes them feel extra special. And I think you're going to have a much more positive reaction 3 months later when they get that car, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And every other profession is setting appointments too. Every other profession is setting it. So why should we be any different?
We have a comment from Heather Murphy. She says, Demandforce will import your appointments from your management schedule. I have WinWorks and send out appointment reminders. It works quite well for her.
Beautiful. There is a lot of software out there that makes your guys' lives a whole lot easier. Take advantage of it.
Well, I think that's a wrap. It's great information, and I really appreciate you guys and everybody that attended for helping us out with this, exit appointments. I just want to remind you guys that we need to stop thinking of customers as what we can get off that car for that one visit. We need to think of customers, the value of customers, as what is their potential revenue with us throughout the entire relationship with them, not only with them, but with them, their family members, and their friends. That's what we're trying to do in this marketing, is build relationships with them, their family, and their friends to get all that service business instead of just trying to get a car in one time to sell them some auto repair. So on behalf of George Zeeks and Mike Haley, thanks again for everyone for attending. I'm Matt Winslow.
I'm George Zeeks.
And Mike Haley. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
Aloha.